Size does matter. Yes, when it comes to websites, the size of images does matter. And I mean, it really matters a lot. Exactly why is the size of images so important? Well, before we continue, let's make sure we are on the same page when talking about image size, because we may in fact not be talking about the same thing. Let's look at the concept of image resolution and image file size before we continue our exploration of the importance of image size. Resolution is the size of an image in terms of its dimensions. And with dimensions, we mean the width and the height of the image. For images, we call the measurement pixels, and it's usually written as px. You really don't need to break your head over how big a pixel is. All you need to grasp at this moment is that a pixel is a measurement unit used for displaying images digitally, and it's similar to other measurement units like inches and millimeters. Image resolution is determined by how many pixels along the width and how many pixels along the height. It gives you the physical, well, technically the virtual image size, and that is resolution. File size. Well, the file size is the actual data, the size of the image file. How many bytes, kilobytes, or megabytes? Usually, images that have a small resolution have a smaller file size, and larger resolution images take up more bytes. Sometimes, images with the same resolution may have different file sizes, and that's due to the quality of the image. A lower quality will result in a smaller file size, and a higher quality will give a larger file size, even when the two images have exactly the same resolution. The size that matters and is important to us is the image file size. You see, the bigger the file size, the longer it takes for your website to load with all these big files. There are two reasons why you should care about this. Reason one, no one likes waiting for a website to load. Research shows that when people wait over 4 seconds for a website to load, many of them tend to leave the site and move on to better things, like knitting a scarf. If your large file-sized images are increasing your website's loading time, you are losing both potential visitors and customers. Reason 2, Google. Yes, Google's Chrome browser is used by 60% of the people accessing the internet around the world. And when they search for things, they search in Google. Here is the problem. Google has in the last decade begun ranking websites on a diverse set of parameters, one of them being your website's loading speed. This means if your website loads slowly because of all these monstrous mega big image file sizes, Google will rank you lower in its search engine results. And a low ranking means that when people search for a product or service similar to yours on Google, you may only show up on page 5 of the search results. And we know nobody clicks that far anymore. Understand the correlation then between image file size and the loading time. The bigger the file size of the individual images on any of your pages, the longer it will take for any web browser to open that page. The longer it takes, the more visitors you lose, and the lower your ranking by Google. And that's why we care about image file size. The goal is to have the best quality image at the right resolution at the minimum file size possible. We will now briefly look at the 4 considerations of making the best possible trade-off between quality and image file size: file format, aspect ratio and crop, resolution, quality. File format. Images are defined as photographs or any graphic image, such as icons and infographics. These various types of images come in various formats. For websites, the 3 most common formats used are JPEG, PNG, and SVG. Each of these has specific applications, benefits, and limitations. In upcoming videos in this series, we look at favicons, logos, photos, graphics, and transparency, and for each of them, we consider which file format to use. Aspect ratio is important as it helps you prep your image for the proper display. For example, if you are preparing a hero section for your web page, there is no need to have a photo that is presented as portrait. By using a landscape aspect ratio like 4:3, we can eliminate unwanted pixel data and cut down on the image file size. Well, you already know resolution is the virtual dimensions of any image. This decision is determined by the placement and function of the image on your website. Let me explain. A hero image usually spans the entire width of your screen. That means if you prepare an image for a hero section, you need to make sure that the image has the maximum width required for proper display on monitors. And if you are preparing images for small testimonial thumbnails, you do not need such an extravagant width. You can reduce it to something smaller. Keeping the resolution down will keep the file size down. WordPress, page builders, and various plugins allow you to set things like the aspect ratio and resolution of an image. But most of them cannot change the quality of an image. Changing an image's quality is done via photo editing software such as Photoshop. You may get scared the moment you hear the name Photoshop, but in these videos, I'll be showing you alternatives to Photoshop that are both free and paid and more user-friendly. Basically, quality relates to how the camera or the software compresses the photo. We don't care how compression works. We only care about the results. Compression changes the file size of the photo and also affects the quality. A high quality of 10, which is the highest quality, will use the least compression, resulting in a high-quality photo with a large file size. The same photo compressed at a quality of 1, which is the lowest quality, will use the most compression, resulting in a low-quality photo, but with a small file size. Your challenge is, how much can you reduce the quality of your image before it starts to look dangerously revolting and unprofessional? It's a constant trade-off, but it's an important consideration that can greatly improve your image optimization. Let's look at an example of a hero image and how these 4 considerations work together on an image I'm preparing for a hero section on my webpage. Please take note, though I'm only going to briefly show you how this process works in this video, we cover all kinds of images and their considerations in the upcoming videos in this Knowledge Vault video series. I'm using a free photo editing software called Topaz Studio. I provide the link in the description for you below if you want to try out the software. Let's get cracking. What I'm about to show you can be done in any page builder and in WordPress. This is a website that I'm working on, and this is a very typical greeting display that we get on our landing page. This image here at the top, which we often refer to as a hero image. Now, what I want to do is I want to change the image of this hero image. This is one that I got preloaded with a block. I want to change it, and I'm going to change it with this image over here. And I will show you how we work with those 4 considerations to get the image at its maximum optimization so that it can work very well in this setup over here. As I've mentioned, I'm using a photo editing software called Topaz Studio. There are free versions and pro versions, and what I'm showing you today can all be done in the free version. So I urge you, if you feel uncomfortable playing around with photos, go through this series with me from the Knowledge Vault. Look at everything I do, go download Topaz Studio, follow the link in the description below, and play around with it. You will be surprised at how much fun you can have. And I will also show you some pro features near the end of this series, just to spice it up a little bit for your images. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just bring in my Explorer, you bring in your Finder from Mac, and I'm going to drag this image in here, and it will just do it as easy as that. Now, if you go back and you look at your hero image, you will see, oh boy, you don't need all this space, right? Look at that. That's way too much. We are going to crop it. Now, the first step we set is consideration of file format. Now, when we are working with photos, we work with JPEG. That's it. Unless your photo needs a transparency element, then we are talking PNG. But otherwise, we are working with JPEG. So that's our first decision. JPEG has been made. The second is aspect ratio and crop. Now, if you look at this aspect ratio, we can go to something like, I've got, I think, 16:5. So down here at the bottom, you see there's a little feature called crop. If I click on it and I go up here to my aspect ratio, I choose one that I've made called 16:5, and it will do it like this. The next thing I'm going to do is also crop it a little bit, which means I'm going to just drag it like this, reduce it even more. All right, and now I'm done. I just click on done. Voila, and that is all we need. So first we chose the file format, then aspect ratio and crop. And next is resolution. Resolution means what is my dimension? How many pixels do I need for my width? And you will find that I always talk about width, that I don't care about height. The height should be determined by your aspect ratio. Whatever I put here at the bottom will be automatically determined for your height. So we care about the width, because when we look at a website, we always look at it, how much do we need from left to right or right to left. And often for me, when I work with hero images, I go at 1920 pixels, 1920, 1920, whichever way you want to say it, pixels across, but you can go smaller. And especially for this image, which I don't need high detail in the background, I'm going to make it even smaller. I do this by going over here where it says more, and then you will say I get image size. And boy, look at the width at this moment. 5,377 pixels. You don't need it. It's going to just increase your file size. So I can go down to 1920, which will give me already maximum quality. But if you want to save more file size, then I'm going to go from 1 to 80. You can go even lower, but that's up to you. I usually play for my hero images between these settings. It's just a preference. There's no hard and fast rule. And then I'm going to say, okay, good. Now it is set. If you check again here at your image size, you will see 1 to 80. We've reduced it 4 times almost based on the original one. Plus we've cut out all those stuff. The next thing is I need to save this image out now as a separate new image. And I'm going to click up here on Save As. Go to File and Save As. And here you will see file format, JPEG. Yes, I'm going to use that. Color profile. For the web, we always choose sRGB. Sometimes you will see this one called Adobe Rgb. Yes, many browsers can handle this, and I'll talk about this in the future, but make sure you go for sRGB. Many browsers have a problem with Adobe Rgb, and you will find that your images look a little bit faded when you use this one. So whenever you are publishing online, just for safety reasons, go with sRGB. It should be there by default. And here is the quality setting we had talked about. Currently, it is at 1. Yeah, I think that is way too low. You see, and if I increase it all the way to 10, I get to maximum. But again, I want to say the following. Look at what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it all the way down to 4, which already we lose a lot of quality. Why am I doing that? 2 reasons. Reason number 1 is that I don't need so much quality on this image. But reason 2 is I'm going to apply an overlay to this image. I'm going to put a color overlay on this image. And again, the moment I do that, I don't need the best quality. I need to make sure that my file size is as small as possible. And every little bit of byte that I can cut out, I'm biting that byte out. Okay, sorry for that pun. I just had to do that. Wordplay, not pun. So I'm going to say Save Options, JPEG, and let's call this 104 so that we know what is the quality for it. And then we're going to say OK, and it's going to save out. Let me bring in my Explorer to show you what we have now at the moment, these 2 images. Here is our hero, and here is our hero image 4. If I click on this one, that's where we started, and this is where we are now. Have a look at this lady's head if you want to see how much quality has been lost. And you really will have a hard time finding it. Unless you do what we call pixel peeping, which many people do daily, you're not going to notice it. And trust me, a visitor to your site is not going to notice it. Right, Frankie. Let's go and look now at our site. We go back to our site, and we're going to change this image. So I click on this image up here, and then I say background. I'm going to delete this image and then bring in that new image. I'm going to select file. Let me just quickly find that one. And here is our hero image -04. Look at that size, 81 kilobytes, for crying out loud. Let's look at the original one size. Where is it? Original one here, 5.71 megabyte. Look at that massive amount of file size that we have saved. Truly, truly miraculous. And I'm going to select it. Look at that. You can see now immediately, maybe the quality is not that great, but remember what I told you. The next thing I want to do is I want to apply an overlay to this image. So let's make it a darker overlay like that. And the moment you apply that overlay, quality is not that important. So that is my decision-making process when I go through it. And you may think, whoa, JP, do it again and do it slower. We're going to do it many times in the upcoming videos. And trust me, once you start getting in this rhythm, you're just going to go through the sequence, choop, 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 like that. It's going to become second nature for you. Really, trust me on that. If you work with it regularly, you're going to be so proud of yourself because you are going to see how it's going to improve your editing skills as well. And this is what this image series in our Knowledge Vault is all about. More of this in the videos to come, so don't panic now. Sit back and just relax and enjoy the show. The following takeaways are important from this image primer introductory video. Image file size is important as it affects your website's loading time, which in turn affects your ranking with Google's search engine results, and may also negatively affect visitors' experience at your site. The goal is always to keep any image's file size as small as possible, but to ensure the best quality for the purpose of the image. To achieve the ideal balance between image file size and image quality, we make 4 decisions. 1. Choose the right file format. 2. Choose an appropriate aspect ratio and crop. 3. Set the resolution based on how the image will be used. And 4. Choose an output quality of the image. The best way is to learn by example, and that's why this video stops here, and we jump into the next one looking at favicons, and how by choosing the correct file format is possibly the most important aspect concerning favicons. Oh, and by the way, welcome to this image series from the Knowledge Vault at Websites for Beginners. This is JP.